this every year. There used to be 100 boats in that harbor. Must be 15 now.
Yeah, what are you doing? Taking kickbacks from the government?
You want to control the fishery. You don't even know what's going on out there.
Yeah.
We understand that the observers are a financial hardship.
Oh, really?
But it's critical to protect the fishery.
That is a clip from the 2022 Best Picture winner Coda, which details a family's struggle to run a fishing business against crushing government regulations. The storyline is playing out in the Supreme Court today, where justices are hearing two separate appeals over a regulation that puts fishermen on the hook to pay for federal monitors on their boats. And the decision has the potential to affect far more than just the fishing industry. In a moment, we'll speak to Captain Alan Walburn, who fought a similar legal battle about fishing in the Gulf of Mexico and won. But we begin our coverage with Fox News Sunday anchor, chief legal correspondent Shannon Bream. She is live outside in the cold in front of the Supreme Court. What's happening inside where it's nice and warm?
Well, so, John, you hit this spot on. This is a case that is about these fishermen who would have to pay federal monitors to be on their boats to make sure that they're complying with federal regulations. They're fighting back against that. But as you note, it's much broader. This, federal regulations, thousands of them touch your life every day, from the shampoo you can use, the food you eat, the cars you drive, and what you can even do with your own personal property. So the justices today were working through this concept of how much deference you give to a federal agency when it comes to decisions about your life. These are bureaucrats who are unelected. You have no way to recall them if you disagree. Well, the Biden administration today argued it would send shockwaves through the system to change it as we now know it, which gives those agencies a lot of power, causing Justice Gorsuch to question whether courts simply have to roll over. He was asking, at the end of the day, does a judge who hears a dispute about an interpretation of a federal regulation just abdicate the finding to the administrative state and then really not even get to do his or her job as a judge? But Justice Kagan used this example of, say, a medication, a product that came out that said it was going to lower your cholesterol. Well, is it a drug? Is it a supplement? What is it? And who gets to regulate it? So her question was, wouldn't you rather have an agency like HHS, which is about safety and health, be the ones to make decisions rather than a court that doesn't have any medical experts on it? We'll see ultimately what the justices decide to do. They have their first secret closed-door vote on this case on Friday, but it could be months before we know what they decide. A decision is due, John, by the end of the term in June.
All right, and we will all look forward to that, find out what they decide. Shannon Bream for us outside the Supreme Court. Shannon, thank you. Sandra?
Let's bring in Alan Walburn now. Thank you, Shannon. He's a fishing charter captain in Naples, Florida. Alan, thank you so much for joining us today. We care about our fishermen. We care about the industry, and we know this red tape makes it hard to even turn a profit. Why are you 100% against these trackers that are being asked to put on these that you're being asked to put on these boats?
First off, the tracking devices that they're putting on our boats, we were already giving the government that information via a paper form every day. The tracking device, electronic tracking device, pings our boats regularly, and that information is uploaded into NOAA's computer banks, making it public information where my secret fishing spots are. That's one thing. It's an illegal search of my private equipment. Since they make me buy the equipment, it's kind of an illegal search of my equipment so that they can get that information from me and then share it with anybody they want to share it with. So if I have a secret fishing spot, anybody in the world can figure it out if they go to NOAA's website and download my tracking information. The most egregious thing, I think, is the government making me buy this device out of my pocket and pay a $75 a month tracking fee in perpetuity. So in my case, I had 4 boats when we actually had this in place a couple of years ago, and I actually had to buy the devices. I had 4 boats at the time. So I was paying $300 a month in addition to $12,000 for the devices that I had to buy. So it was just onerous and just unnecessary. And one last point, if this device happens to malfunction, my boat is not allowed to leave the dock, period, under any circumstances until that device is reestablished. And, equipment breaks down all the time, and this is unique to my boat, so it's not like I could put a replacement on there and keep going. I have to have a technician come in and install the device and upload the satellite tracking data, making it unique to my individual boat. So it's a pretty onerous situation for a fisherman.
Well, Alan, so many people hear what you're saying and they think, well, This isn't the first time we've heard about government overreach when it comes to the fishing industry. I mean, we go back to the Obama years and the red tape then, and so many of the fishermen we reached out to said that it was almost impossible to stay in business. I mean, with all of this added regulation, do you sometimes just think, is it worth it?
Well, I don't know anything else, so we have to make it work. But that's why we went to court. We felt like that the government was against us and the law was on our side, and we prevailed handily. And I think my unique case, I think, will cause the current case to be ruled in favor of the fishermen up north, because it was a pretty clear-cut decision by the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals on our case where we won. And I think the case that's pending right now will, I predict that the court will come down on the side of the fishermen.
That's such a great point that you make. I mean, we've been talking about the costs involved in having someone come on your boat and monitor the fishing activity. But then they have your data. They have your secret fishing spots. You're giving away everything you've worked for all these years, essentially, to the government.
Yep. And if you came down this afternoon and said, Alan, let's go out on the boat and take a cruise, and you show me around and we'll videotape everything on your boat, I would have to call NOAA and tell them the purpose of me leaving the dock and what time my estimated time of arrival is back.
Wow.
I just think it's a huge intrusion, privacy intrusion also.
That's a great point. This is Bill Bright explaining how this regulation could cut profits in half. He's at the center of the Supreme Court case. Listen.
To me, this is like an added tax, a much added expense. If you figure you have 10% profit over time, so if you went out on a $100,000 trip, you have $100,000 worth of product, and you stayed out a week at $700, that's $5,000. So that means that's literally out of that trip, that's half of the profit.
I mean, I think some days fishermen, they're happy to turn any profit. And there's some days where nothing comes in at all, and here you would have a mandated everyday fee. Go ahead. Real quick final thought from you.
That's what I was going to point out, is the fact that fisherman's observer gets paid every day. So you ride out 100 miles and get out there and decide that it's too rough to fish and turn around and come back, and you're out there for a day going and a day coming, but you'd never fished. You still got to pay that observer the $700 a day. So it's just not sustainable. We couldn't pay that kind of money, and the commercial fishermen won't be able to either.
Well, Alan, our hearts are with you. We want our small businesses and our fishermen to thrive. We're watching what's happening. We're covering it, and we appreciate you joining us. But you're making me a little jealous. I want to get out there and fish myself. And Florida sounds pretty good.
Well, you come on down. We'll get you out fishing. Get that fly rod out of your hands and get a real fishing pole in your hands.
I love it. You just made my day, Alan. Thank you so much for joining us.
See you later. Take care.
All right, John.